welcome to the welcome to the Brain Crops podcast. I'm your host, Chelsea Myers, where my mission is to lift and bless 100 billion people to accessing their truth. And I am very thrilled to be joined today with John Golden. John is a new friend of mine, and immediately from our first conversation knew that this conversation we were going to have today was going to be one that is going to be not only enjoyable, but relatable and inspiring to all who are listening. So John, welcome to the show.
Hey, Chelsea, it's a real pleasure to be with you, and I've been looking forward to this conversation. So glad I can learn from you, and thank you for everything that you've done for me.
You're so welcome. I'm so excited to have you here. Your story is just so inspiring. In fact, when our mutual friend was talking about you, I was like, I got to talk to this guy. What is, going from, I'm not sure. Well, I want you to tell the story about Everest, actually. But you have just such an inspiring story, and I just wanted to talk to you. And it's just rang true through all of our conversations, the golden thread of just who you are as a person and your dedication and determination. It's just incredible to have you here. So I guess since I mentioned it, let's talk about that. You went through a really tough time, and then that led you to this absolutely incredible experience, which I believe there's a documentary about, resulting in you climbing Mount Everest. Would you mind talking about that?
Sure. Yeah, I'd say that when you think about your life's journey, you don't know when the next chapter comes, and for me, I started out I thought I was always going to be an athlete, and I was a college football player. And, anyways, unfortunately, I had a horrific knee injury that caused me to have to divert, and I became a person in the corporation. Of all things, a math major, and not many football players are math majors. But I ended up getting into the corporate space, and what I didn't realize is, in those days when you got rehabbed, you just started to jump back in after you finish a few weeks of rehab. You go, and you don't realize how interconnected our body is and how important we have movement. And I had this thing called compensatory movement patterns, and literally with every step, I was kind of tearing my body apart without knowing it. And over of a period of about 10, 15 years, I went from having major knee surgery on what I got hurt in my one knee, the other leg started to go. And through a lot of different procedures, and just going through the healthcare system where they were just kind of evaluating what's going on without understanding the fundamental issues. They were solving the symptoms of knee pain. Anyways, I ended up in a situation where I was forced with, "Hey, John, we need to take drastic action. This knee is no longer going to work. We're going to take this out." I'm late 30s, and I'm thinking, "Holy cow, that's not a good place." And I remember sitting down with the team of physicians and finally asking the question, like, "Tell me what I can do, not what I can't do," because they literally told me to go buy a ranch because I wouldn't do stairs again. And I'm like, "Wow, that's not good." So, anyways, I stepped back from that process and tried to evaluate. I ended up having a revolutionary knee transplant. And as a result of that transplant, I realized what a gift I was given. And I was given kind of a new lease on being able to move and be active. So I committed myself to saying my first goal, quite honestly, was just to be able to play with my kids, be able to play with them in the backyard, walk with them. And as I made that progress, I sat down with my physician and said, "Hey, can I do something like back to my athletic days?" And he said, "Like what?" I said, "Well, climb a mountain." And he thought I meant a bluff in Wisconsin. Quite honestly, I didn't know what I really meant, but it led to climbing Mount Everest. We did that really to raise awareness for the great physicians who took a risk with me and did this type of revolutionary transplant. And yeah, it's a documentary that was done by the Discovery Channel on our climb, and it was a life altering experience because from there I decided to get into human performance and transition out of my corporate world.
Well, I was just thinking, you're really talking about exploring human potential here because a lot of people would, even hearing that story, put themselves in your place and realize that that is completely life altering. And they might be inclined to just believe, your life may be, completely altered and not even be considering climbing mountains like you did. I really feel like it's such a powerful metaphor. So, what would you say that that experience recalibrated in you, especially after something physically could have served as evidence that you needed to now just adhere to this new life that you were to lead?
Yeah, I think that there was a theme that, in my professional career, I was seen as a leader, and I would take on projects that were unique, and I always like to do the unknown. But I never applied that in my own personal life. I just took direction in what people said, "Hey, do this." And when that doctor told me that I wouldn't be able to do stairs again, it lit something up. And what I did in my professional life, I brought to my personal life for the first time. And what I would say to you is that, our goal, one of our goals in life is to give people hope. And my physicians who did my surgery gave me hope, gave me an opportunity. There was no guarantees, but what you did was you had these brilliant people surround you, uplift you, give you an opportunity. Last thing you want to do is one, let them down, and then two, you're like, okay, what can I do with this? And then the old adage of how do you pass that on? And that just became, for me, it's like, okay, so how can I have courage to be able to take this hope they gave me and make something of it that I could give back to others? And what that does is that creates happiness for yourself. And again, that's not a great philosophy, but it is what it is for me. And that inspired myself, which then allowed me to hopefully have some influence on others.
Mm. And it does, and it still does, which is what I opened with, that I was inspired just hearing about your story and then getting to know you. So let's talk more about your professional life. Vital Neuro is a technology with profound implications for brain performance and emotional regulation. Um, I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about what it is and what made you realize that that was where you wanted to pour your life force.
Yeah. Again, if you seek good things come to you. And I've been very fortunate to have great mentors in life. Um, After I had my transplant and did the Everest climb, I became part of a group called Exos. And this was a group of wonderful people that were really trying to innovate in the human performance space. And we focused a lot of time on these four pillars of mindset, movement, nutrition, and recovery. And that group did a lot of great innovation around how do we do that for not only the most elite athletes and the elite military, but for us every day. And in being part of that journey with Exos, I recognized in the mindset space there was very little being done. Most of it was around pharmacological solutions, talk therapy, and surveys, and nothing scalable. And I was introduced by a dear friend of mine, Mark Haddis. I was introduced to Cameron Fallapur, who really came up with the idea around Vital Neuro. And it was fortuitous that we met each other. Cameron had this incredible idea in science, and then my background being in operations and technology, and then having the human performance. It really was just a great mixture of the two of us and the rest of that team at Vital. And so it really felt like it was the right thing to do. And the purpose behind it is really mission driven. We know that as in society today, the demands on us are all great, and we're all being asked to multitask. I always say if we all had a new job title, it would be, president of busy. We're just all really busy. We feel overwhelmed. And so how do you become less whelmed? You know what I mean? That sounds like something from an 80s movie. But how do you become less whelmed? And how do you quiet that noise down that's in our head so that we can get control? Because when you don't have control, you can't self-regulate. You can't regulate how you sleep, how you eat, um, your mood, your energy level. And so we wanted to be able to bring something that everybody could use every day safely. Right? There's a lot of great stuff that happens, many of them with side effects, many of them are very expensive. But this idea of neurofeedback, that you can go to a clinician's office and listen to music, and music's known for its qualities to be able to help change your mindset. And so if we could use technology today to zero in exactly, Chelsea, what frequencies work for you and create custom music in the real time for you and transport you to a new state of mind in minutes, that would be amazing. That's what the team at Vital has spent the last 5 years working on, is to be able to deliver that in a solution that's frictionless, something that you can put on and you can wear it anywhere. Wear it when you're walking outside, cleaning at the house, working at your desk. You have it when you need it, where you need it, and it really does work.
Okay, so it's not something that you must use at a clinician's office. You can use this at home.
Correct. Yeah. The modality is simply music. We're playing music that your brain listens to, works in your unconscious. It settles the right parts of your brain down that needs to be settled, and it uplifts the parts that need to be uplifted. So if you need to focus, need to optimize, maybe in the afternoon, a little bit of an eye of the tiger pep that you need, it can provide that. Or going to bed and quiet down all the voices, that's what it's able to do simply by playing music. And you just really just slide the headphones on, press a button, and it works. And unlike like regular, like people always ask me, how is it compared to like, meditative music or, other solutions out there? Those other solutions can be very effective, just like everybody responds to certain types of music.
Mhm.
But if you're really dealing with feeling overwhelmed or stressed or dealing with sides of anxiety, or you really want just to get to a state of flow, you really need a superpower. And so we all know the power of personalization. When you can personalize a message, personalize a medication, personalize a solution for somebody, it's far more effective. Our brains are very complicated. Every day you wake up in a different state of mind. You may be worried about what's happening, what your kids are doing, the weather, maybe you didn't sleep well. All those things affect your state of mind. So where you're starting every day is different. So you need more lifts some days than others. And what Vital
Mhm.
does is it understands where you're starting that day at, and it's able to create music real time, live, right there, orchestrated for you to get you where you need to be. That personalization is what's so unique. We call it neuro-responsive music. You don't just respond to the music responds to you, is the way we look at it.
Wow, this is so incredible. And you mentioned Eye of the Tiger. So are these familiar songs? Are they songs with words? Are they instrumental?
Well, I can promise you they're not me singing them. Okay. Yeah, they're
No lullabies from John.
yeah. They would need therapy after that. But um, yeah, no, they're mostly instrumental, right? We have a
Okay.
really, really great talented team, and we've worked with some external artists also to compose music. Some have voices, but it's mostly instrumental. And again, it's meant to play to your brain more than your ear. So if we're successful after you have the headphones on, you're sitting there listening. After a minute or two, you're not really hearing the music. You're in the state that you want to be in because your brain, it's working to your unconscious brain.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm being reminded of a conversation I had with a client, and she had never been able to successfully get into a meditative state. It was just boring to her, and her mind would drift until she put on just some drums. It was like shamanic drums in the background, and those shamanic drums were just enough for her to get into that state where she could get still for a moment and have that meditative experience. And so that was her goal in that moment, was the meditation, and the music assisted with that. And that's what was coming to mind as you were talking.
Yeah, that's the
But
power of
yeah,
music.
so do you, this is so interesting to me. So let's say I'm going to go work out. Do you tell it, here's the activity or the state that I'm needing to be in?
Yes. Yeah, so you would indicate what where you wanna go, right? So think about it, I always say your transitions of your day, where do you wanna get to, right? So my
Mm-hmm.
transition from work to home. In your case, if you wanna go work out, then you're looking for that eye of the tiger, pick me up, right? So you would
Mm-hmm.
choose, that state. So we look at them as mode. So you wanna get to the optimize, right? Where in the morning, it's more of a relaxed homeostasis balance. You wanna get in balance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, this is so cool. I need a pair. Um, is it heavy? How does it feel?
It's super light. I mean, this is it right here. I mean, it's not very complicated, right? So the goal was to make something that looked easy. You look at so many things in this neurospace. I jokingly say it looks like a colander with spark plugs sitting on your head, right? It's pretty intimidating, right? So our
Yes,
goal
yes.
was just you
Yeah,
just do this, right?
right.
And the key is making sure you're getting to the right spots in the brain to read. And just for your wonderful listeners here, it's super light. It weighs just like a regular headphone, right?
Mhm,
And these sensors on here are really they're just passive. We're just reading your brain activity. The only thing this device does is play music.
mhm. Now, is this something that users are trained to interpret data on their own, or is this something that they need to work with a practitioner alongside as they're getting that regular feedback, or is there even a need to look at the data?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, yeah, we really spent a lot of time. I look at the simple answer to your question is we give it to you in really simple terms. You don't need to be a neuroscientist to understand the results. And so
Mhm,
we really at Vital, the team really felt it was important for people to realize what's happening to them without having to be a scientist. The
mhm,
analogy I'd give you is like if you think about the personal computer when it came out in the late or the early late 70s, early 80s. You know, they had all these you leave the top open so you could see the printed circuit board, you could see the lights, and it was intimidating. And people actually, the people were like geeks that did that, right? That's where that whole thing came from with the pocket protector, and it was made it scary. I think and Apple came out and said, the personal computer is for you, right? And it'll bring out your creativity, your imagination, allows you to be who you are. I'm hoping that we can do that with neurofeedback, with Vital.
mhm,
I want to take it away from the white coats and the scary, hey, we're reading your brain and look at all these crazy signals and wires and just make it simple. What people should care about is how quickly can I get to my new state of mind? How deep can I get there? How long can I stay there? That's what we care about, right? So, can I
mhm,
get you from a state of stress to relax in a minute? Can I get you from a level of relaxation of a 2 to a 4? And how long can I keep you there? Can I keep you there for minutes, hours, right? Because our mind wanders. So once you drop out, how do we get you back in? That's all we should care about. All the other alpha, beta, theta frequencies and wires and stuff. I don't think most of us want to be consumed by that.
mhm. You know, one of the things that's coming to mind as you're talking right now is the importance of being aware of what we're listening to all of the time. Because if you're, creating a solution where you can get people to feel desired emotions and get them to a desired frequency, presumably music and sounds and shows and all the things can do the opposite as well. If we're not paying attention to that, we could inadvertently be putting ourselves into a state of mind that we don't actually enjoy operating from.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's by the way, you have a wonderful way of putting questions, so it causes a lot to happen in my head. So hopefully I'm making some sense to your audience. I think it's really important. Life throws challenges at all of us, and when you're a professional, there's a desire to kind of make everything look good and easy, and it's not, right? And all of us are faced with challenges. I'm at the stage of life right now in my late 50s where my broader family needs a lot more support. My parents, my in-laws, all those people need support and a lot of demands on your life. And you want to have the same passion and get all this experience, but it's like there's a lot of demands. And so how do you handle that and all the pressures of today's changing society? We all need help. And the thing is, you can call that help whatever you want, but I use Vital every day because it helps me get through things, right? I can't begin to tell you that's why I became the lead investor in the companies because I saw that impact. The things that Cameron and this team and Alex and all of them have done has been, transformative. And so I feel very fortunate to be able to help bring that forward for all of us, right? And you know, I just I don't know. It's a pretty emotional experience for us because we see how hard it is. We get messages from people every day of what they're challenged with, right? And I just spent today talking with some folks in the military, and we're really just trying to help them. And if you can just hear your own voice, the biggest thing I hear from people with Vital that are really stressed out is they'll say the noise went away in my head, the volume went down. It's the first time in years that I felt my heartbeat. I could actually hear
Wow.
myself breathe, right? Think about the last time you heard yourself breathe because there's just so much noise and expectations going on in your head. And without, if you can't get rid of that noise, it's really hard to make, really quick, timely decisions that we're all being asked to make and to be emotionally ready, right? I mean, not to share too many stories, but one of the best things I learned about we used to have when I worked in the corporate space is take your kids to work day,
Uh-huh.
right? And I was always amazed at how amazingly well behaved all the employees were on that day because they had their kids at school. It's like, wait a minute, Tony isn't like Tony. What happened, And because
Uh-huh.
their kids were in the room, they wanted to give a good example. So I took that as a lesson that says whenever I have a meeting, I try to do 2 things. I try to bring energy instead of suck energy out. And number 2, I pretend like my little kids are sitting next to me and would they be proud of me in the way I'm handling myself. And those are kind of 2 things I use to help myself, you know, regulate, where you're at because life happens and you could if you bring that baggage into the meeting, it's not always pleasant.
Yeah, and you've kind of touched on the same theme a couple of times, which I absolutely love. So I just want to give you credit for this um, perspective that you seem to operate from a state of overflow all of the time. Like your surgery went well, so you're like, how can I share and give to other people with this second chance I've been given? And then your reflection question of how you can be so that you can be a strong contributor to those around you. It's just such a beautiful energy that you operate from, John. So I just want to thank you for being you and um, for for operating from that perspective, because it's something that when people do, it just has the potential to create so many ripples of impact, which is what you're doing.
Oh, I appreciate it. I mean, um, I'm sure, Chelsea, you have some great mentors in your life, and they guide you in many ways. And I've been very fortunate, through this journey. Um, I'm always looking for those next mentors because I've got a pile of mistakes still coming that I better get ready for. So,
Well, you mentioned that you're a father, and I'm curious, as you help build the future of neurotechnology, how do you think about the inner worlds and mental wellness, of our next generation?
oh wow! So we're going to do a series of these podcasts to get through that topic. Yeah, I think uh, as society evolves, and the good and the not so good about that, and as technology evolves, same thing, the good and not so good. We're moving at such a fast pace, and the foundation that much of what our growth and learning and mentorship has occurred is in transition. And I always take the positive. So it's in transition. There's lots of incredible capabilities coming, but as these things move, it creates gaps, and kids and people can fall into those gaps, right? And so navigating that in the future is going to be a big challenge. And this is why like Vital to me is so important. Yes, it can help kids get better test scores and help them for their ACT, but more importantly, when you look at all the demands on children today and what they're being asked to do, multitasking and all the information coming at them, if we don't upgrade this human operating system, right, to excel in that environment, they're going to be really challenged. And there's nothing through our education system that helps them upgrade that human operating system. And as many of the foundational things are shifting and creating these gaps, I'm just you have a right to be concerned that people are going to fall through these cracks in these gaps, and how do we fill that? And I believe Vital and solutions like this that are frictionless, that they can use every day. If we get in front of that, we won't have all the issues that we might have 3, 5 years down the road, because we got in front of it, because we're teaching them how to upgrade this human operating system. We're giving them back control, helping them self-regulate, so mood and food and energy aren't issues.
And that's something, I'm deeply passionate about with building meditation is preserving the incredible creative power and um, the incredible beings that our children are born into this world as before they're rocked slowly to sleep by society and pressures and social contracts and all of the things that can really cause a lot of brain fog that we then in our 40s and 50s and 60s start realizing, oh my gosh, I don't have to live this way anymore. So I love what you're describing here, and it's really you're on the frontier of human performance. And so what do you think the time frame is? You think it's like we're going to look back 10 years from now, 20 years from now and think, how did we ever live without this? Or what do you think we're looking at to fully integrate this?
Oh, that's a great question. It's a more of a societal question. I'm a big believer in like BJ Fogg's work around behavior design. I think the technology's here. Now it's a matter of accepting it, right? You know,
Mm-hmm.
the biggest challenge we have at Vital is, how do we make it cool? I mean, you get somebody like me talking about it. So we've got to go find somebody that's cool that can really make it, in today's society. People buy from influencers. The technology's here. We just have to now make it acceptable in society, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as well as anybody, you show mental weakness, and it's almost like, people attack it, and that's not right. I always say to myself, I grew up in the physical space, physical world, physical training. When you bruised yourself or sprained your ankle, hurt your knee, everybody saw it. You limped. They wished you well. You got therapy. You got better, and then they wanted to get you back in the game, in the field, as quickly as possible. With mental health, if you admit you have a problem, it's almost like you're cast aside, and we need to make that safe for everybody, because, as I said earlier, we all deal with this. And so if we can introduce very easy, frictionless modalities like Vital and neurofeedback into people's lives, we can get in front of this before it becomes too big of an issue. We just have to make it easy to do, which now the technology does. Now we just need to make it acceptable to do. And that's the we're trying to crack that code now. So if you know any cool people, let me know, and we're going to have them talk about Vital.
I was taking note. I was taking, we'll put a pop up. All cool people apply here.
Yes, my kids would say, "Not dad."
No, yeah, not dad, not dad. So I do have a deeper question for you as we get to the close of this. If you could encode one message, one vibration, one frequency into the technology that you're building, something that reached people beneath that noise, what would it be?
Wow. Um, Probably compassion. I think in today's world, we just need more compassion, more understanding for each other. Um, so if we could do that, I think we would at least have the ability to maybe find a way to work together, compromise, and create some amazing things. I mean, there's so much hope and promise in what's in front of us. It's tremendous. I don't even know how to envision it, but I'm so excited, right? And it's there's so I would say compassion. How's that?
I love it. I think it's perfect. And I'm with you. I think do need to follow up. I would love to, as this continues to take root and spread with all of the cool people promoting it. I'd love to see how this grows and unfolds. I'm very excited about it as well. And I think I'm with you. Sometimes the unknown is the most exciting place to be, actually, when you're not sure what's going to happen next, but you could just feel the frequency of it. And that's where you're at. And this is so incredible.
I like the idea of the frequency. Thank you. And thank you for everything you do, really. And you do it with class. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you. This has been a pleasure. Is there anything else that you want to include in this conversation that I haven't asked or we haven't talked about?
I would just I try to say this to groups when I talk to them all the time is that remember everybody here matters, right? I have a good friend of mine, Dan Polino, and he has a group that he leads that, and everybody does matter. We all matter, and what's important is if you need help, right? There's ways to help, and I always like to close with saying that we are all vital, right? You are vital, right? And so if you don't feel that, then come talk to people who can help you feel that because you are vital.
It's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. And thank you
Mm.
for being here. This was a pleasure and a joy.
Oh, thank you, Chelsea. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you joining me for today's episode. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the show, and visit dentallife.coach for access to additional coaching tools, as well as more episodes to help you create the life you truly desire.